What if one of the fastest jets the United States ever built was also one of the most dangerous to its own pilots? That is not a random question. That is the true story of the F-106 Delta. DART, the jet that was supposed to fix the failures of its older brother, but instead created a long list of its own problems. Some pilots called it a wonder machine. Others probably wanted to punt it off the runway like an angry football. And yet this aircraft has landed itself in War Thunder, where you can now try to master its speed, its weapons, and its quirks if you are brave enough. Back in the early 1950s, the US had the F-102 Delta Dagger, but the thing was slower than your internet connection during a storm, and its performance left the Air Force looking for a replacement. The answer was supposed to be the F-102B, later renamed the F-106 Delta Dart. This was not meant to be a small upgrade. It was supposed to have a brand new engine, a fancy new weapon system, a completely redesigned fuselage with a cleaner air intake, and more little changes than a picky chef trying to perfect a recipe. On paper, this looked like a winner. In reality, the problem started almost immediately. The first flight happened in 1956, and from that day the gremlins moved in. The electrical system was about as reliable as a toddler with a box of crayons. The engine decided to play surprise shutdown at random moments. The top speed was disappointing compared to what had been promised. And the MA-1 weapon system, which was supposed to be cutting edge, basically said nope and refused to work. The real nightmare, though, was the ejection seat. It was designed for high-altitude escapes, but the procedure was so complicated that at low altitudes it was almost guaranteed failure. A dozen pilots tragically lost their lives trying to eject from this machine before the flaws were fixed. Imagine being told your emergency exit is basically a trap door to doom. That is not exactly the confidence boost you want before a mission. Despite these disasters, the F-106 entered service in 1959, and once operational units got their hands on it, the reviews were mixed. Some pilots absolutely loved its speed and performance when it was working properly. Others cursed it under their breath every time something broke. It became one of those jets that you could either brag about or roast endlessly at the bar after a flight. Over time, the Air Force kept upgrading it, trying to polish this spiky lemon. The MA-1 fire control system alone was updated more than 60 times, which is about as many revisions as some video game patches in early access. Then came Project 6 Shooter in 1972, which added an internal cannon, redesigned the cockpit, and improved several systems. Now the jet could finally fight without relying only on the cursed Falcons. It even became a test bed for helmet-mounted sighting systems, which was way ahead of its time, though it never entered service officially. Here is the kicker: the F-106 never saw real combat. It was basically the sports car that stayed parked in the garage until it ended up in reserve units through the 1980s. But thanks to War Thunder, you can fly the F-106, a 6 shooter yourself, and find out whether you can tame this moody speed demon. In the game, the 6 sits at rank 6 in the US tree at battle rating 9.3. And it comes as a main reward from the Skyguard event of 2025. It does not get a ballistic computer or a radar warning receiver, which is already a little painful, but it does get some fancy tricks. The MA-1 radar is included along with beyond visual range and close combat modes, plus an infrared search and track unit, and even a helmet-mounted sight. For a jet at 9.3, that is like bringing a laser pointer to a knife fight. It sounds powerful, but wait until you actually try the missiles. The F-106 carries AIM-4 Falcons, and let me tell you, these things have the reputation of throwing wet spaghetti at a moving car. First, you get the A4G, which is infrared guided rear aspect only. It has short range and no proximity fuse, meaning you need a direct hit to score a kill. Think of it like trying to poke a moving fly with a toothpick. Then there is the A4F, which is radar guided and can be fired head-on, but again, no proximity fuse, direct hits only. And while the stat card proudly says 27G, good luck with that, because in practice, these things are about as dodgy as a cat avoiding bath time. In real life, the Falcon had under 10% kill rate, and the game reflects that almost perfectly. So what do you do when your missiles are basically Nerf darts? You turn to the flight performance. And here the 6 has both glory and tragedy. The jet is insanely fast for its rating. It